cop unexpectedly approached a homeless man, unaware two women were watching him. Elizabeth and her close friend Patty were two young law graduate students living in Jackson, Tennessee. It all started one cold January morning in Tennessee, where temperatures were near record lows, and there were warnings of heavy snowfall for the week. Still, Elizabeth and Patty decided to meet for lunch that morning. The young students decided not to wait as they hadn't seen each other for several weeks and wanted to catch up on their postgraduate family law notes that they were both about to finish. As planned, the two women's lunch began while telling each other all sorts of anecdotes. Afterwards, they went over their course notes and studied some topics together. While waiting for the waiter to return with a check, Lizzie and Patty, who were still sitting by the window overlooking the street, saw a homeless man sitting on the side of his road with his backpack. The image totally transfixed him, and after that, they couldn't take their eyes off him. Elizabeth felt very sorry for the poor man. "Patty, I think we should do something, I don't know, give him a hot sandwich and a cup of coffee. We want to dedicate ourselves to defending people's rights, and that includes him, too, right? I'll pay for it so at least he gets something to eat and is protected from the cold," Patty agreed as she grabbed her coat and prepared to go outside. However, before they knew it and before they could get out to help the man, a police car appeared and stopped right next to him. From the car a police officer quickly got out and approached the homeless man and began to talk to him. The two friends stood still as they watched the policeman approach him and decided to wait and see what happened. After spending a few minutes talking to the beggar, the policeman got back into the car. The two friends thought the policeman was going to arrest him for being on the street, but they were wrong, and they only had to keep looking to see what was really happening. The policeman was not going to arrest him or report him. What the officer fetched from the car was a bag of food, a full lunch that brought a smile to the face of the poor man who was having such a hard time. The homeless man who was lying on the ground got up as quickly as he could and gave the policeman a long, tight hug. The two women looked at each other and smiled knowingly as they continued to admire the wonderful act of generosity and service this policeman was performing. But the man's kindness wouldn't end there. After giving the food and letting him enjoy the taste of hot coffee, the policeman pulled a large bag out of the trunk of his car. Patty and Lizzie were very intrigued to see him pull out the bag, but they both sensed what might be inside. The officer began to pull out items of clothing with which the homeless man could protect himself from the cold and change out of the dirty, wet clothes he was wearing. The generosity of this policeman seemed to know no bounds. As they continued to stare in amazement at what was happening, Patty had the idea of recording the scene to share on social media. The young woman excitedly took out her cell phone and began to record. Elizabeth recorded everything by zooming in as much as she could. After the policeman handed him the bag full of clothes, the beggar couldn't hold back his tears and started crying inconsolably as he covered his face with a woolen hat. That scene broke Lizzie's heart, who couldn't help but get excited and began to cry in silence without letting go of her cell phone. Later, the policeman said something else to the beggar and immediately got into the police car and left. It was just 10 minutes, but what happened that cold morning in the middle of the street would have permanent results that no one could forget. The beggar then kept his clothes and sat down to enjoy lunch sitting on the sidewalk. That evening, Elizabeth made good on her word and published a post on Facebook narrating what had happened. This is the side of law enforcement that no one sees. Social media shows the tragedy and hides the testimony, she added. Among all the problems in today's world, we too often forget one important thing, that we're all simply human and need help.
Subscribe for more content like this. And don't forget to hit the bell button so you can be updated right away for new uploads.